We begin after the Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, arguably one of the most f***ed up DC animation movies. Our heroes have finally defeated Darkseid after Cyborg teleported the planet Apocalypse into a boom tube portal along with Raven's father, Trigon, while keeping Darkseid busy. Although victorious, Earth lost too much, and everyone grieves after losing their loved ones. Batman confirms that Earth lost a third of its core from the fight, severely impacting its rotation and causing it to freeze or burn everything with even the slightest change. John Constantine thought of a different solution. John wondered if there was a way for it never to have happened in the first place. For his plan to work, he needed the Flash to create a flashpoint and rewrite the past. John then guides him with his magic to change certain events and ensure that Darkseid never finds them. Even before Flash triggered a flashpoint, John was determined to face the consequences of his past sins, no matter the price he had to pay. He thought it would be the first noble thing he ever did in his life. And just thinking about it, he already knew that it would cost him a lot. After a bright light covers the horizon from the flashpoint, John finds himself in a creepy hallway the next thing he knows. He tried to check one of the doors, but he returned to the hallway when he passed through one. When he checked the next room, he found winding up and down staircases, so he decided to check on the next door. When he opened it, he found his friends at what seemed like a surprise birthday party. While he keeps getting distracted, behind him, as if someone is looking at him, Zatanna shows up. He is shocked to find her alive, given that she was dead the last time he remembered. When John was spacing out, Zatanna wondered if he had eaten the pickled eggs at the pub again. She claims that the pub doesn't change them. Still trying to make sense of it all, Zatanna tells him not to scare their children before bedtime with his stories. Out of nowhere, their kids Della and Jack show up, to which he tells them to be nice to each other before he carries them to bed. Jack and Della started coughing profusely until they coughed up blood and lost consciousness. John asks his friend Jason to call 911, but he and the others begin coughing up blood before losing consciousness, like the kids. Confused about what just happened, Zatanna gets up looking much better, and so do the others, to which John threatens his friend Richie if they are pranking him. Suddenly, his kids, Jack and Della, speak up, telling him it's not a joke, but when he looks at them, they look like demons who claim it is what he deserves. Jack and Della then lunge at him and bite him in the neck, to which he finds the others turned into demons and attack him. John later wakes up back in the hallway from what looks like a nightmare. He decides to check out the hallway and open a different door when he finds his friends again, sitting around a table about to play a game of cards. They wonder if John got lost again in his own home. They then start talking about the past when he thought he had a good hand. Suddenly, his cards change to a losing hand, which he wondered why. When he looked at his friends, they were demons again. Etrigan shows up and asks him what they should do if they get a losing hand when he suddenly chops off John's hand without warning and kills him with a sword. John wakes again in the hallway where someone or something is seemingly playing with his head. John notices a presence and calls out to it, but when nothing happens, he takes a monocle from his pocket, allowing him to see the invisible, but he sees nothing. He then starts chanting a spell to form an orb of light in his hand, which he readies before opening another door, to which he finds Zatanna in bed in her underwear. John immediately puts out his spell and takes off his clothes. He then asks her if they have kids as he remembers her introducing them. Zatanna claims they don't have kids, given that John never wanted one before, so she wonders if he has changed his mind, which he confirms he did. When he keeps asking about the kids, Zatanna grows impatient and becomes a succubus who breaks his neck. John wakes up again in the hallway, and this time he tries the other doors, but winds up back in the hallway, so he decides to use the stairs. After going through the winding up and down stairs, he finds himself in the foyer. He tried opening the doors, but it was locked, so he tried breaking the windows and discovered they were barricaded shut. Furious, he breaks down the door with his magic to find an empty, barren wasteland. He tries to find the exit but runs into a barrier surrounding the house. John later realizes that the house is playing tricks on him, so he casts a spell to get to the bottom of things. He discovers that the house is in a separate dimension when the succubus Zatanna shows up, brings him back to reality, and bites him to death. John wakes up again but is having dinner with Zatanna and his friends this time. John realized he had to break the spell and excused himself to the bathroom to cast a spell. With no water source to cast the spell, John was forced to use the toilet as a medium, where he discovers that the omnipotent Spectre placed him in the House of Mystery as his punishment for changing the past, when he asked Flash to create a flashpoint. Spectre explains that changing the past has created not only a ripple, but a tidal wave of disturbances. He then forbids him from meddling with powers he does not comprehend. John explains that he did not know it was against the rules and suggests announcing his sentence so that others would understand the high price to pay for doing what he did. Spectre sentences him to eternal exile in the House of Mystery. After ticking off Spectre, he flipped John back to the real world, where his demon-turned friends await him and feast on him. After learning the truth, he tried to use memory wipe and confusion spells to keep his sanity, but it didn't last long, and he kept getting murdered by his demon friends every single time. Spectre's spell forced him to relive his life and repeatedly experience death at the hands of his friends and loved ones. He tried fighting back, but he lost every time. He even tried running away from them, but they always caught up to him. When he finally beats them, when he catches them off guard with his magic, a sinister tree suddenly grabs him from behind and kills him. Since time in the House of Mystery flows differently than in the real world, the days quickly turned into months and then years, to decades and even centuries, experiencing all forms of unimaginable deaths. When he thought things couldn't get worse, the demon Nergal the First Fallen shows up in the House of Mystery and captures John. While restrained, John explains that the world back then was trash, and neither had much to lose. Nergal picks up a fireplace poker he has been heating, suggesting that he would use it to torture John. Nergal says that when he heard Spectre's announcement that he was exiled forever in the House of Mystery, he couldn't just sit still, as he claimed that his soul belonged to him, and that he should be the one to mete out his punishment. After seeing John's expression, Nergal declares that John seems content with his decision, that he thinks an eternity of torture was worth what he and his friends received. With that said, Nergal accepts the challenge and sees how John will fare with an eternity of torture at his hands. Suddenly, they feel the ground trembling, and a portal opens, which the demon Beelzebub passes through, claiming that John sold his soul to him. When Beelzebub showed him the soul contract John signed, he claimed that he sold it 3 times when Ashox the Second Fallen arrived. They quickly disagree and fight over who gets John's soul and gets to torture him. Then John uses it as a distraction to break free from the snake that restrained him and cast a spell to bind the demons together. Ashox criticized Beelzebub when he tried to break free from the chain, explaining that their rage fuels the magic. The stronger their rage, the tighter the chains become. John thanks them, claiming that he would have never gotten out of the House of Mystery without their help. He realized early on that Spectre was much too powerful for a mortal like him, so he tricked him into announcing his sentence so they would come and get him by opening a portal in and out of the house. After realizing that they were deceived and made fools by John, they argue and start bickering against each other while John slips through the portal Beelzebub made. While casually strolling the world between worlds, he runs into Spectre, who expects him to be imprisoned for eternity in the House of Mystery. When Spectre picks him up, John wonders if he has someone else to bother, to which he replies that he seems the most troublesome. John is furious after having gone through several memory wipes and having forced the love of his life, Zatanna, and his friends to become demons that rip him apart. Spectre claims that he meant no ill intent when he placed him in a place where he could spend eternity with those closest to him in an endless, perfect dream. But because he deemed himself unworthy of happiness, he keeps reliving those nightmares, as he is unwilling or unable to confine his own failures in the past to the past, even when those who died already forgave him. Hearing that from Spectre, John finally realizes that the only one stopping him from being happy is himself, as he can't forgive himself for his sins, which makes him eternally tortured. After realizing the truth, John has finally come to terms with his sins and fully accepts his punishment. He asks him to return him to the house, claiming that he will no longer fight it and that there are no more tricks. Spectre explains that he tried to shield him from the consequences of changing the past, but that window has now closed. John asks him what he wants him to do, to which Spectre explains that it is not him that wants anything from him, but that the universe is the one that demands restitution. He describes the universe as a living thing to which the wonders within exist for all of them. When John looked at the bright light, he finally understood what Spectre had told him when it suddenly exploded. Spectre says that he was selfish when he acted upon changing the past, which caused the universe harm by breaking its rules, to which now the universe will exact its price. John pleads to Spectre to help him and even begs him to kill him with his powers before he is sucked into the bright light. Before he left, Spectre said, "Woe to you, John Constantine," and flew away. Thank you so much for watching the whole video. Please be sure to check out these other videos and make sure to subscribe and tap the bell to be notified about our latest videos. See you soon.